Okay. Hello and welcome to my Impact Wrestling review as we are 1 week away from Slammiversary next week in Dallas, Texas. As we get closer and closer to the show, this is pretty much the final last week or two in the tapings of New York City. So what other matches do they have planned for next Sunday's pay-per-view or any other type of hype? This isn't technically the final hype until next week's go-home show. But what else do they have planned for tonight leading into Slammiversary? But other than that, we kick off the show with the North. All Ego Ethan Page and Josh Alexander versus the Deaners, Cody and Jake Deaner. I heard something. What do I have to say about this match, huh? Not a bad match to kick off the show. Good opener. I will say one thing I did kind of catch was, I don't know if it was Jake Deaner that hit Josh Alexander in the head. I don't know if it was a shoulder block or anything. Or maybe not a shoulder block, but it was to a point where Alexander's head was bleeding. It wasn't like a lot of blood, but you could like see the cut on his forehead. Pretty big shot on there, but I'm not sure what it really was from. But it was a good match, though. I will say that the North ended up picking up the win with the double neutralizer on Cody Deaner, which the right team went over. I will say, just because they are still building the North. They were kind of losing to a point to the ECW guys, or just being Moose's henchmen at one point. But it looks like they pretty much broken on their own as a team, and I will say, is kind of getting over right now. And then picking up wins work. I believe they're supposed to be facing LAX this Friday. I believe. I know the pay-per-view is Sunday, but they have some brewery thing going on. It's like those Impact Plus shows they got going on. They're technically canon, if I'm not mistaken, because that's what it was with the stuff they did over Mania weekend, and then it was that Code Red thing. So these Impact Plus shows do tie in to the regular show itself. So it's kind of a canon thing you got to pay attention to sometimes, if necessary. But they do technically count. Taya was in the, I guess, Rosemary's Lair or stairwell or wherever the big purple light was, as she pretty much didn't agree to the Monsters Ball thing, and that she's not even close to the end of her 30-day, title defense thing, and she wasn't even contractually obligated to defend the title at Slammiversary. But Rosemary closed her mouth saying, "Remember, we have a verbal contract with each other. I help you take care of Havoc and Su Yung. In exchange, you give me a title shot." Rosemary pretty much said that we have been tasked to take on the Goblins tonight. So a tag team match was going to come from that. They then went to Rolando or Ronaldo or Menendez to pretty much look for the scoop on Brian Cage's health, as he talked to the doctor, or whatever this fake doctor guy was. Pretty much said that Cage put his health in jeopardy tonight, and he's going to see personally that Cage doesn't do it again. They played video footage of Moose at one of Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore events of him beating him up, since I guess Moose is now coming after all of RVD's ECW friends right now, and I guess Tommy was the first. Even though I believe he beat him last week in a match anyways, but he beat him up there. Matthews pretty much said that Don Callis could be next because, ECW, but I don't think that's really going to happen because he's not a competitor. But other than that, we went to a tag team match with Su Yung and Havoc versus Taya and Rosemary. Not a bad match in anything, but it pretty much ended up with a disqualification since Su Yung hit Rosemary with a chair. Pretty much the DQ protects all 4 women until the pay-per-view next week, so nobody wasn't really taking L here right now, including the champion. But it pretty much got to the point where all the women pretty much brawled with each other. Rosemary ended up putting some thumbtacks into the ring. They were going to do a double suplex on Su Yung, Rosemary and Taya, but Havoc came for the save and pretty much grabbed Rosemary. Su Yung was about to go in for a strike, but she ended up hitting Havoc. They were about to fight as James Mitchell pretty much came up and broke it up, pretty much telling them not to go at it right now, save it to Slammiversary. So pretty much, they still hype up the angle between all 4 women for this Monsters Ball match next Sunday. So that's kind of the thing from that. But good angle though still, as they hype up the title match. They then went to Melissa Santos. She interviewed Ace Austin, talking about his first loss in Impact last week. Pretty much saying he didn't like Melissa's question, and that nobody knew TJ Perkins worked in Impact before last week. Again, pretty much says he has studied the X Division, and he blames on his loss because he didn't even know who TJP was. He didn't know who his opponent was going to be. I did not study TJ Perkins, so I was not prepared for this open challenge match, even though he did open challenge last week. Perkins pretty much showed up in the interview saying, you know, he had to stretch his legs a bit after being chained in a basement for the past 3 years. Pretty much, you know, telling Austin, I think you know that. No, you don't know that. But listen, you want a rematch, we can do it next week. No excuses. Pretty much that whole chain in the basement thing was specifically at WWE, okay? You could tell that was just a shot, since you say, if we're going to go say what, he was chained 3 years in 205 Live, if you want to go from that, which is kind of funny because at one point in the beginning of 205 Live's inception, he won the Cruiserweight Classic and was kind of the top guy, or pretty much the centerpiece built around him when they put the Cruiserweight title on him. So it's kind of odd he's taking shot. But then again, I get why he took a shot at WWE, just saying, I've been trained in the basement, I haven't done anything but just be down there in 205 Live. And don't get me wrong, I remember seeing him in the beginning of 205 at the time, but I think it got worse, and then I just stopped watching the show, so I didn't know what was really going on with him. And don't get me wrong, I don't think a lot of people watch 205. I know 205 Live's gotten better nowadays, but I still think people didn't watch it. Perkins, I didn't mind Perkins over there. I thought he was good, but they just didn't know what to do with him. And he just, I didn't know, and then he ended up getting released a few months ago. To what I heard, it had to do with his tattoos or something. I think I said this last week, because he just got this crazy amount of tattoos. Some people said it was some gang shit on that. I'm not really sure if that was the case, and then I heard it was erratic behavior. So it is kind of, I didn't really expect him to take a shot at WWE right there, but he pretty much says, like, hey, I've been chained in the basement. WWE's been holding me down for the past 3 years. I finally can be free and do whatever I want. Because people remember he was in this company before, and you know, his last run in Impact, hopefully it's better than his last one, because he was suicide, then he was manic, and they just didn't really know what to do with him when they had the chance. And you know, we thought something was going to happen to him in WWE, but that only kind of lasted for like a hot minute. So it's like, people say it's funny. Some people say he takes a shot at Impact, but he won that whole Cruiserweight tournament. And, you know, they made him like the focal point of 205 Live in the beginning when he was the champion. The Deaners were in a bar drinking as they were trying to, you know, try to cover from the loss, until Desi Hit Squad came in making fun of them, saying, you know, they were trash and work class and everything. So they went on from that. They went from now to like the cinematic thing they were going on. It was at a church in Boston, Massachusetts. Eddie Edwards was pretty much praying as a pastor came up to him, telling him, like, when's the last time you made a confession, my son? Pretty much, Eddie pretty much says he's losing his friends, his career, and maybe his wife. And, you know, he doesn't care because he's being pulled in the direction of doing bad things. And he said, in the eyes of God, he's a sinner. And as, I guess, the pastor put his hands on again, it pretty much turned into Killer Cross then after that. Saying, because I guess he was the pastor. Cross said, we're all sinners in the eyes of God. Eddie wanted to fight him, but Cross said, you wouldn't fight on holy grounds in a church, huh, old man? I don't think Eddie Edwards is an old man. Was he like 30-something? I don't think he's that old. Cross pretty much told Eddie that you're trying to search for forgiveness in all the wrong places, and you're afraid of losing or maybe even finding yourself. Eddie said, you know, we'll do this outside where there are no rules. But, you know, Cross said, you're going to have to wait a long time because he finds this place peaceful in church. And as he sat down, the pastor came back and asked him, when's the last time you made a confession? And Cross said, listen, I make my confessions every day, all right? And then he got up and he wanted to confess his sins right now to the Father. And he said, he told the pastor, how much time do you have? So I'm assuming he killed this pastor in a church. This was a better segment, I will say that. And once again, Cross is just great at this whole, you know, I've called him before. I called him the Shakespeare destruction, I called him. And with this going on, because it is a match between him and Eddie Edwards at Slammiversary, so you know, that's going to be the thing. I expect him to probably go over after didn't he have his face chewed off last week by Eddie Edwards? So, well, it's supposed to be a first blood match at the pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. So, at least I will say it was an interesting segment that they did this in a church now. So, I don't know where Eddie Edwards is going with this. is he going to go back to regular Eddie Edwards if he's tired of being the crazy Eddie Edwards now with, you know, walking around with kendo sticks and Sandman and everything? So, or does Cross have to beat the crap out of him and put him back to, you know, normal or something? I'm not sure where this is going, but it was an interesting segment, though. Johnny Bravo was in the back with referees and, you know, I guess staff talking about he's Johnny Impact's friend, as they called him a stooge, but Johnny pretty much said that he's in a position he doesn't have to be a referee jobber, and he said Johnny completes me and stuff. As the referees kept laughing at him, he pretty much got, you know, he would choke Rich Swann like he did last week if Rich was here right now. Pretty much Rich Swann showed up attacking Johnny Bravo. Johnny Impact came and pretty much started coming in as the referees and security broke it up. The Mac was involved and says, how about this? We're going to take both of you to Slamtown. Tag match, which they pretty much, tag match, which they pretty much proposed right now. So I guess that's going to happen next week now with, Swann and the Mac. Even though it wasn't the Mac taken to the hospital, I thought, after he got destroyed by Elgin last week. But, you know, he's magically back now, so there you go. Callihan Fulton came out as Sami Callihan was about to go against Fallah Bahh with Scarlett Bordeaux, who is now released from this company. This was a good match. I have to say, man, Fallah Bahh is just losing more weight every time I see him, and the guy just moves very agile and all over. I said, this guy's doing suicide dives. I remember this guy was like really big, but this dude is just motivated. He's really good in the ring. Callihan ended up getting the win with like the pile driver, and as he got on the mic, then fans started chanting "draw, draw." Pretty much he called someone a dumbass in the crowd then, and as the fans cheered for Sami Callihan, pretty much says this is the only way a male can get over. I don't know why he's going against women nowadays. He said he doesn't like this whole knockouts equality thing, and he was going to sit in the ring and take the show hostage, and pretty much, unlike a bitch, I don't do this from behind. He called out Tessa Blanchard, since that's going to be a match with those two at Slammiversary, as he called a professional wrestler, and he asked how Tessa can't do anything like him because, he is a male and she is not. Sami pretty much talked about how he's going to treat Tessa like equal as she was listening. He pretty much ended up kicking Tessa with a pump kicked in. The fans started booing, and this is what happens when the woman gets in the ring with a man, and he pretty much Tessa started beating up Sami Callihan, but OVE came out and held her back. He ended up using his baseball bat and hitting Tessa in the gut then after that, and then hitting a pile driver. So the promo wasn't bad, and it hypes up this match, but it's kind of odd that they just took like a 180 for some reason and put Callihan in a match with Tessa Blanchard just because. He's just against women now for some reason. I don't know about how this match is gonna go at Slammiversary. Tessa can go, like both of them are great, but I'm still not sure where this feud is kind of going into. Why Sami Callihan is now against women all of a sudden, just fighting them. So I don't know. It's a little strange, but this wasn't a bad promo though. I will say that. The Laredo Kid, who I've already done a review on, which showed up on Fyter Fest the next night, teamed with LAX to go against the Rascals. Crazy spot fest. What do I have to say from this? I can't really name every spot that was going on because it was all over the place, but it ended up with the Rascals hitting their finishers on Ortiz, as Trey hit was a top rope meteor for the win. Crazy spot fest, of course, which, they get a title shot and everything. But then they did a little, smoke circled in, which was Brown. Pretty much said only two of them can go in for the titles. So next week would be a triple threat match because they kept talking about the finisher and everything. So whoever loses next week in the triple threat match, they will not be in the match at Slammiversary and everything, since this is a tag team match. Melissa Santos interviewed Madison Rayne, as she talked about being the second person to pin Jordynne Grace. Rayne pretty much said that, she was happy for the victory, but it was controversy, and she wanted to give Jordynne Grace a rematch. But Kiera Hogan came in saying that Jordynne doesn't deserve anything, and, she was not good to me as a friend. Kiera pretty much said that the old sympathetic Kiera is gone, okay? And pretty much, you want to talk about all this whole knockouts division is a sisterhood and stuff. It's not. That's one thing that every knockout has in common, though. We're all selfish bitches, as she said, deep down inside. And pretty much Madison pretty much said, well, Kiera said she's not afraid to admit that, but Madison pretty much went on and said that, you know what, I'll save that rematch right now, because you want to bring the dark side out of me, huh? That's what you want to see? Well, I can show you how ugly really things can get. So I'm assuming it'll be a match with those two next week on the show. They didn't once again, Ronaldo Melendez or whatever, pretty much Brian Cage picked him up and he moved him out of the way, then picked up the doctor that tried to stop him, moving out of the way. He was pretty much there for the final part of the show as he came out cutting a promo. Fans did the Terminator clap thing, slapping the ramp, as it took him 14 years to get to this, to proving that he's one of the best pro wrestlers in the world right now, and that's why he's the champion. And he told Elgin that yeah, you sent me to the hospital and everything, okay? But pretty much you sent an already injured Brian Cage to the hospital at the time, which he was really hurt back at the Rebellion pay-per-view with that Spanish fly to his back and stuff. But Cage pretty much said that he's here now, and Elgin, you can't break the machine. The doctor tried to tell him to stop. You need to go. You're not medically cleared. Cage ended up hitting him with an F5 then. But after that, Michael Elgin came out and attacked him after that. He ended up hitting him with a buckle bomb and a Elgin bomb then. And as Elgin held the title up and was about to walk away, Cage held on to his leg and tried to get up. But Elgin hit him with like a spinning Elgin power bomb then after that. And he set up a table. Pretty much referees and tried to tell him to stop and stuff, because he said he was going to send everybody to the hospital then, as Elgin said. Elgin, and this looked kind of brutal right here, he ended up power bombing Cage out of the ring onto a table then, as Elgin pretty much got on the mic and said, like, listen, he's not even going to make it to Slammiversary. He might as well make me the world champion right now. Don Callis was pissed and was starting to fire Michael Elgin. Elgin ended up punching Callis in and was going to put a power bomb on him. But then next thing you know, Brian Cage just rolls up. I'm pretty much nearly no-selling everything that just happened to him, taking off the neck brace because they were about to put him on a stretcher. And as he got up, him and Michael Elgin pretty much brawled to close out the show after that. So, this was good to still build Cage and Elgin. We know, listen, Cage hasn't been here for a while, so, they've had a tough time. I wouldn't say they had the toughest time building it, because most of the entire feud that's been leading to Slammiversary has mostly been, Elgin, Johnny Impact, and the Mac and Rich Swann being in it, because Cage has been hurt. Cage has been gone for a while due to his back injury, so they're trying to go as quickly as they can now to build this into next week's show, because Cage has not been here. We didn't see him till last week on this show, and he's here to cut a promo, so I guess they gotta do something next week because it's the go home show. But he hasn't been here. Cage has been mostly fighting the Mac and Swann, or Johnny Impact, with those four that have been holding the main event scene together right now. So it's been a little bit tough when you don't have your world champion on TV due to injury. But, at least they're doing what they can to push this as fast as possible now into next week. I thought this was a good angle, I will say that. And Cage, beat the crap out of, not Cage, but Elgin beat the crap out of Cage. But then he just kind of no-sells everything and rises up like the Terminator then, like nothing hurt him. It just brawled like it was nothing. You just took three power bombs in the ring, and you got power bomb to the outside of the ring with a table, but magically he just rose up like a freaking zombie, like nothing hurt him, and just threw the neck brace off and just started brawling with Cage. I guess we got to prove that he is a machine that cannot be broken. So I believe that's the case when it comes to that. But, other than that, I thought this was another good episode of Impact. Like I said, they've really been building up well in the Slammiversary. The go-home show is next week. Of course, we're going to have a review next week of Slammiversary. I'll probably speak in more detail of that, because, it's going to be 2 shows next week. I got to review the G1 Dallas thing, which I don't know if I'm even going to be able to do that next week. I'm going to have dental work done, so I probably won't even be able to talk, because I'm going to be in a lot of pain next week throughout that day, unless the medicine can numb my mouth that I'm able to speak. But we'll see from that, because I'm probably going to be drinking shakes and eating soft foods for the next 24 hours if necessary. But we'll find out next week if I can get to a review for any of those next week. So we'll see. But I'm going to go from here. I'm out of here. Comment, subscribe. Tell me what you thought about the show. Check out any of my other reviews if you can get the chance. I'm sure the Fyter Fest one is up as we speak at the moment, as of the recording of this video and everything. So I'm out of here. Follow me on Twitter at Hoodin890. See you guys later. Peace.